we go. Let's get started. Welcome. You're listening to the best of investing on Talk 910. This is the show where we present valuable information about real estate, the financial markets, and other economic business of the day. And for those of you listening for the first time, here's our format. A few guys sitting around a bar, having drinks, without the drinks and without the bar, talking business with you, the audience listening in. I'm your host, Edward Brown, and I'm pleased to have as my co-host Mark Hanf of Pacific Private Money, California's fastest growing private lender, and Robert Spinoza of RPM Mortgage. Our phone number is 888-912-1190. Write that number down, 888-912-1190, because you're going to use that number to answer the trivia questions for 3 vacations given away during each commercial break. That's right, we're giving away 9 vacations during this show. Now, the vacations are not sponsored by the radio station, but by Lighthouse Resort and Marina, which is located 1 hour northeast of San Francisco. The vacations are free. Their only request, a $75 cleaning fee to cover housekeeping expenses. Check them out at their website, lighthouseforfun.com. You can also reach them at 916-777-5511. Today's trivia theme is mythical creatures. We'll have some fun with that. Our website is bestofinvesting.com. Check us out on Facebook and YouTube by typing Best of Investing Radio Show. And we're also on television, Comcast Channel 26 and AT&T Channel 99 on Saturdays at noon and Sundays at 6 p.m. We're all over the place. Go to www.bestofinvesting.com and check us out. Okay, now, we're going to get right into a very interesting predicament that Robert Spinoza has found. Robert, just take it away. Tell us what's going on.
Yeah, so, a lot of people out there are somewhat familiar with the Dodd-Frank bill, and maybe a smaller segment of those people are aware that in January of 2014, some additional restrictions are going to be placed on mortgage lenders as a result. We're all chomping at the bit. But this case specifically caught my attention. Major bank and Ohio mortgage broker are being charged with discriminating against a couple with disabilities. So the long and short of it is that this couple goes to get a mortgage loan, and the underwriter for the loan comes back and requests from the borrowers, because they're qualifying with disability income, requests a physician's note, to document that the disability income will continue, presumably because they're trying to establish whether or not these individuals can pay the loan back over time.
Which is part of the Dodd-Frank Act, isn't it?
Correct. Yeah,
okay. You have to prove that you can pay your mortgage.
That strikes at the heart of a provision in the Dodd-Frank bill, a core provision known as ATR, or ability to repay.
Yep.
So, the couple refuses to provide this letter.
Why?
It doesn't go on to say why. I'm sure we could figure out. But anyway, according to the Fair Housing Act, lenders may verify the amount and source of an applicant's income, but can't place higher standards of proof or qualification. So these people have sued. They've gone and they've said, we were discriminated against because we attempted to qualify with disability income, and this lender will not make this loan for us. What's especially interesting about this is the catch-22 it could potentially put lenders in. If these people prevail in court, what that's saying is to the lender, what it says to me is, you're damned if you do and you're damned if you don't. If I, as the mortgage originator, say to these individuals, I need to see additional documentation to establish your income, your potential for earnings over time, such that you can repay this loan, consistent with the ability to repay provision.
Which they have been doing by checking into your checking account and asking about your job, etc.
And all of the other restrictions that have been placed on individuals, as we know, restrictions have certainly become tighter over the last few years, and it's difficult for many to qualify. So this really strikes at the heart of a very, very difficult predicament that lenders are going to be put in, and we have to hope that the lending industry doesn't just retract and say, we're scared to make these loans, period.
I think this case is great, and I'm going to explain why. When you actually read this article, what it says is, broker and bank hammered by HUD for discrimination. So who's filing this lawsuit but the Department of Housing and Urban Development, which is a government agency that is suing because a bank is following a government-sponsored
exactly right.
regulation.
Yeah, but they're following the wrong government.
Right. So Congress, which is the wrong government,
exactly,
passed a huge bill a couple of years back known as the Dodd-Frank, or Frank and Dodd, as we talk about it here, that a horrific pork-laden and regulation-laden atrocity that has served, in my opinion, and let me just speak frankly about this, has served really only to reduce consumer choice and to treat consumers like idiots.
That's right.
Like you're too stupid and you are not capable of making decisions on how you borrow money.
Mark, I don't understand.
So
you're the kind of borrower we're looking for.
So Congress, who we all know, created the environment that resulted in the subprime mortgage meltdown in 2008. We all know that, right? They passed a slew of regulations to force banks to make loans to people who didn't qualify because they thought it was great for everybody to own a home, even if they couldn't afford it. We have the subprime meltdown and the whole real estate debacle, and then those two brain surgeons, Frank and Dodd, decided to sponsor a bill laden with thousands of new regulations to make sure this never happens again.
But isn't Obama basically going back to, I think everyone needs to own a home?
Well,
is he the one who's saying, or there's somebody saying
yeah,
that?
we'll see. So these new Frank Dodd, among the many Frank Dodd regulations that have been passed and handed down from above are, thou shalt not make a loan to someone who cannot demonstrate to you, Mr. Lender,
right,
their ability to afford to make those loan payments. Sounds smart, sounds logical, but in practice, it is difficult.
Here's the funny thing is that for Mark, we'll get into exactly your business in a minute. This actually is really kind of good news for you.
It is good news for the private lending business. Yeah, absolutely.
Well, we have to take good news with a grain of salt, only in the sense that like Mark said, if consumer choice is reduced, that's never good news. It might tip the scales in favor of one segment of the economy or another, but in general, when you see consumers losing options, which is something that will happen in January, that to me is troublesome only because I believe and have seen that the housing economy and the healthy housing economy is integral to the broader economy and the health of the broader economy. And I think the confusion that is engendered by a lot of these conflicting regulations causes lenders to retreat back to the safest place. And that may not be the one that is best for consumers, and it may not be the one that is best for the health of the housing economy in a true state.
Well, the funny thing is, they're not allowed to discriminate because of disability.
Right.
They're also not allowed to discriminate because of religion. So if a pastor wants to go buy a house and they start asking him questions, I'm sorry, you're not allowed to ask where my income comes from because I'm part of the church.
There are a lot of those in place already. We do have to deal with that. If you were dealing, for example, if you were dealing with a single mother and she just said, I'm not married and I have dependents, you can't take that any further. You know what I mean? You can't probe any further about, okay, well,
where's your income come from?
No. You can talk about where your income comes from, but the fact that she's a single mother, you cannot discriminate against her solely for that reason. So a lot of the things in the Fair Housing Act, that's good. Like,
well, that wouldn't be very nice to discriminate against.
Yes, but we have to appreciate that.
Nice.
We have to appreciate that laws are in place to protect people who might take advantage of that and say, "Oh, you're a single mother. I'm not going to make a loan to you."
I mean, she could be a widow.
Right.
She could have killed her husband.
Right.
Who cares?
Right. Well, then you know about life insurance. So
yeah, exactly. That is true. Oh boy, I tell you. Okay, hey guys, we're going to cut to our first commercial break. But before we do, we did have a special trivia contest last week where the winner was going to get a night's stay at the Glen Ellen Inn. And
was or is?
Excuse me, is. A trip to beautiful Sonoma.
We're not reneging on our
No, we never do.
Yeah.
A beautiful trip to Sonoma County wine country is all about enjoying delicious garden, fresh foods, drinking amazing small production wines, and most of all, relaxing with the one you love. And the perfect spot to do all three, the Glen Ellen Inn, located in the heart of the Sonoma Valley. And now, actually, it's called the Glen Ellen Inn Oyster Grill and Martini Bar. Get that. They also have secret cottages, which are just steps away. You can stay the night and enjoy your own fire.
Here's your key, but I can't tell you where the place is.
Yeah, really. Yes.
Secret cottage.
That's right. Exactly. They have beautiful jacuzzi tub, oversized shower for a truly romantic getaway. Check them out at glenelleninn.com. And the special trivia question was, where was the #1 place to lose your cell phone? Answer: the grocery store.
Really?
And our winner was Marie in San Francisco. Very
Card
good.
maybe?
Wow,
Congratulations.
congrats.
That's a very smart lady there. Okay, the commercial break we are going to is commercial break number 1. The mythical creatures is our theme. Here's the question. What is the mythical creature who was half man, the body, and half bull, the head? Very scary looking thing. The first 3 callers with the correct answer win a free 3-day, 2-night stay at the Lighthouse Resort. Their website is lighthouseforfun.com. Call 888-912-1190. That's 888-912-1190 to answer this question. What was the name of the mythical creature who was half man, the body, and half bull, the head? And as Mark pointed out earlier, it's not Red Bull. 888-912-1190. Make sure to include your name, your email address. Please speak slowly. Spell out your email 1 letter at a time. Don't touch that dial because the best of investing will be right back.
Minotaur?
Minotaur! Very good, man. You are like the mythical man.
So I'll give you an example. The single mother thing.
Yes.
You couldn't, as a lender, I couldn't then go and ask her, oh, you got those kids in daycare? Because then I could say, well, how much you pay for that doesn't show on your credit report.
No, but you can ask for your living expenses, right?
No, because that is not residual income is not something we qualify on.
But no, that's not residual income. That's expenses. Like, don't you ask for?
No, excuse me, it's credit report.
Wait a minute. So I could make $1 million a year, and I could spend $999,000 a year on X.
If I didn't see it on a credit report and it didn't show up on
But
your,
on a 1003, you have to say what your expenses are, don't you? Your living expenses.
Neither one of those are going right. Oh, actually,
No.
his is going.
Mine's going. Yeah, don't touch.
Don't touch that
That's
dial.
it.
on your
It's
going?
going. It is going. Yeah. Okay.
where would you put that on a 1003?
But isn't that I mean, if you show income, don't you have to
Yeah.
show expenses?
You show liabilities, which come over from your credit report. You show alimony, places like that. But I mean, if you had daycare, it would not be on. There'd be no way for you to. I mean, I'm sure you could go write it in if you wanted to.
No, I could have sworn that they asked for expenses, like real estate taxes.
Well, your taxes is on your housing payment.
Yeah.
Yeah. So.
Oh, you're a tough one. I know. If it was your money, you would just give it away.
You get my point. You can't
Yeah,
probe.
I know
you
there's
can't
certain things you
probe
can't ask.
on
Yeah.
you know. And it is kind of a gray area, but we talk about that when we take our continuing ed. They're like, well, can you ask them this? You know, and you're like, oh.
I can ask them anything I want.
It makes sense to ask, right? You're
It
like,
does.
but
Tell me everything and anything.
yeah, but I mean, there's no place on your 1003 to put, how much you spend in groceries.
That's right.
If you don't charge it on your credit card, we wouldn't know. But everybody,
That's true.
last I checked, everyone's eating.
How much do you spend on medicinal marijuana?
There you go.
Go, hey, those clothes look pretty expensive there on your kid. Why don't you spend on those?
Yeah, right.
Can you even ask how old they are?
You can ask how old they are and get their birthday.
Well,
And
that's probing, you know.
Yeah, right. You know that. Well, that would be
Probing.
The thing is, I've had people ask me this question before. I've had people in their 70s or 80s ask me if they can get a 30-year loan because
But the payments are lower.
Yeah.
You know what? I'm glad that happened now. I just don't want that on the.
Hello?
No,
You can't have it.
quiet. We don't care.
I know everybody goes with their phones.
You can't have it.
What's that?
You just can't have it.
We can't have that. All right, that's there. All right, when we come back, go right into email time, and then I get this thing from Richmond still.
Oh, the eminent domain.
Yeah,
Okay.
it's kind of still a
Cool.
fun one. And
Maybe we can go back and revisit that a little bit later. We can talk
Yeah.
about some of the Dodd-Frank unintended consequences.
okay. Ready?
Yep.
Welcome back to The Best of Investing. I'm Edward Brown, your host, along with Mark Hahn, president of Pacific Private Money, California's fastest growing private lender, and Robert Spinoza of RPM Mortgage. When we got to the first commercial break, we asked this trivia question. What was the mythical creature who was half man, the body, and half bull, the head, because he was bullheaded?
Minotaur.
Minotaur, that is correct. Very good. Okay, let's get right into email time here, and then when we come back, later on, we're going to revisit, as Mark pointed out in the break, the unintended consequences that happen sometimes. Okay. For Mark, we have here, it says, with what I've been hearing in the newspaper, it seems that the fix and flip investors have run their course. Is that your experience too?
So I'm broker and president for Pacific Private Money. We're a hard money, private money lender located in the Bay Area. And our business model is we make loans to real estate investors, including people buying, fixing, and flipping real estate. We've been doing it since 2008. All throughout this market that has corrected and for the most part is in recovery right now. And so that's a good question. You would be led to believe, depending on who you talk to in the marketplace today, that either it's a great market to be buying, fixing, and flipping, or it's a horrible market to be buying, fixing, and flipping, and you'd be right on both counts. Because real estate investors who are trying to find opportunities that are like on the MLS, the multiple listing service, those are basically that are publicly for sale and you're competing with other people. Right now, there's still, even though it's cooling off a little bit now that we're going into fall, cooling off weather-wise and cooling off froth-wise in the real estate business, real estate industry, it's tough to find a deal that you could buy that isn't subject to multiple bids,
right.
And price being bid up, and be able to then remodel and then resell that same property for a profit. It's difficult to do that. The people that are successful today at buying, fixing, and flipping are generally those who are successfully purchasing a property via short sale, and they may have made that bid 3, 4, 5, or 6 months ago. They may have made that offer, and it's worked its way through the short sale
Hopefully
process.
they didn't forget about it and do something else, and then suddenly you're approved.
Yeah. Oops. No, but in fact, we have still plenty of applications coming in at Pacific Private Money for purchase loans for people buying, fixing, and flipping, and it's very typically a short sale. Or it's an REO property that wasn't listed, that somehow they have a relationship either directly with an asset manager or indirectly through maybe a wholesaler with an asset manager. So there are people today that are able to bird dog purchase opportunities at or below market pricing. And I know that's hard for some people to believe that have been trying their hardest to find an opportunity to buy, fix, and flip a property, and they're not successful. So all I could say is that we're seeing it. We're not seeing any slack in demand for capital or transactions. So there, for those people who have really studied the real estate market and have been doing their networking and their homework and making lots of calls and inquiries and attending real estate investor events and learning the secrets and the ins and outs, and sometimes it's just through sheer serendipity that you've come across opportunities. Yeah, absolutely. But I will agree that if you're just, looking through the newspapers and looking for the MLS listings for properties that are quote unquote fixers, and you're hoping to buy it and flip it for a profit, very, very skinny profits right now. In fact, a lot of guys are saying it's just there's nothing out there. There's nothing out there at retail that I can buy.
I would think there's a little. I'm kind of surprised that the banks are still doing as much short sales, are they? Because
absolutely,
with prices going up, are the banks kind of going, hey, wait a minute, why are we even taking a short sale?
Yeah, no, I think there's a lot of short sales out there that still exist, but we have to remember too, it's very geography specific. So some areas are still, they have not realized the appreciation we have here in the Bay Area, and I see still with consistency, I see short sales in Southern California, and those just, to me, on the buyer's financing side, they appear to make sense. Like short sale was the best thing for that seller to do.
And the other reason for short sales that are still happening with greater frequency than you would expect by reading the newspapers, the reason there's still a lot of short sales is because there's just a lot of people who are trying to wait it out, and they've run out of time. I know specifically, I have an example of a friend of mine who's been holding on to a house he bought in 2005. He paid $1.2 million for it, and he thought that by now the market would have returned. And as it works out, the almost exact model in the same subdivision recently sold for about $850,000. So he still has a long way to go to recover that investment. And he recently told me he's given up. He's going to let it go to short sale. He's tired of continuing to invest in a property that's underwater. So that's not that's not an isolated event. There are just people that they lose their job, something happens, and death, drugs, and divorce are still three of the biggest components oftentimes for changes in a family dynamic or changes in income that lead you to no longer be able to afford your payment. So
it's not so much it is the bank still has to agree to
right,
it, but
they still have to agree.
Yeah, but
you have to prove that hardship case too. It's not like they're going to agree to your short sale if you've got a ton of retirement accounts and other reserves and things like that you've had all along.
But it's non-recourse financing generally on a private residence, so unless they're just really worried about their credit, it's not as big a deal for them to walk away.
Right.
Interesting. So Mark, for these people who are fixing and flipping, if they do find a deal, you can lend them the money.
Absolutely.
And for those people who want to invest with you, what kind of return are you giving them?
Most of our private lenders right now are earning anywhere from 8 to 10%
amazing?
On their money. Yeah, it's pretty amazing.
I want to stop you right there because one thing I've been thinking about a lot lately with the run up in mortgage rates that everybody's been talking about. Have any of us gotten a notice from our bank on our money market account that our savings account or money market? No, that's not happening. So you're kind of
anybody earning 2 or 3% of their money
right.
market
So
account.
let's put that in perspective.
That's true. I went from 0.00001 to 0.00002.
A rounding error.
That's pretty much what it is. Mark, how do people get a hold of you?
So they can reach my office at Pacific Private Money. We're located in the Bay Area here at 415-883-2150. That's 415-883-2150. Or visit our website at pacificprivatemoney.com. Call anytime to ask about either how to borrow privately for your real estate project, or how you might put some of your retirement savings or self-directed IRA money to work, earning 8, 9, maybe even 10%.
And it doesn't necessarily have to be retirement money. It could be just money that's
Any
just hanging
money.
around.
Yeah, any money hanging around. Hey, there's some right there.
Yeah. Okay, Rob, we received an email for you. It says, can I finance my closing costs into my mortgage?
Good question.
Good question.
Yeah, it is a very good question. And you get this question from people who are whip smart, and you get this question from people who are going through a transaction for the first time. So it's a little counterintuitive, but let's take, for example, a purchase transaction. Let's say you are buying a $500,000 house, you're putting 20% down, you have a $400,000 mortgage. Let's say, by way of example, you have $4,000 in closing costs, okay? So if you tried to finance your closing cost, that $4,000 into your mortgage, you would now have a loan amount of $404,000. Okay. Follow me?
Yep.
However, you no longer have an 80% loan to value. You now have an 81% loan to value. Now the lender's going to say you need to have private mortgage insurance, PMI, or you need to have a piggyback loan to get you out of that predicament where you're above 80% loan to value. So in a case like that, financing your closing costs has implications for the type of financing you can get. If you had a 60% loan to value and you finance that $4,000 and you have a 61% loan to value, no change.
No big deal.
Right.
Makes sense.
But remember, in a purchase scenario, it's always net of your down payment anyway. So if you were going to bring in $200,000 and you're bringing in 204, for example, and paying your closing costs, otherwise you're adding it to your loan and you're keeping it in your bank account. So it kind of nets out equally. The other thing is when you're refinancing your loan, you can finance your closing costs, again, subject to your loan to value guidelines. And there are 3 ways to do that with the refinance. You can pay your closing costs out of pocket, so you can go to escrow and write them a check. You can have the lender pay your closing costs by way of a credit, and that typically increases your interest rate. That's what some people call a no-cost refinance, a little bit of a euphemism. And the third way is you can add the cost in, you can finance them into the balance of the loan. So you have a $400,000 loan now, you refinance.
I like
you have
the bank
a
paying mine. How do I do that?
So
that sounds good.
Well, right, it sounds good, but you pay over time, so it's a short-term
No
play.
free lunch, you mean?
No free lunch in the
buy
lending
down the
industry.
note, but can you buy down the rate?
You
still
can,
have that?
you can still buy down the rate. That's the opposite direction on our rate sheet. So if anybody has any questions about that stuff, let me know. It's a great question. Like I said, it's not as obvious as you might think, and there are lender implications on either side.
Okay, I'm sure the audience out there has lots of questions on their mortgages and about refinancing. How do they get a hold of Rob?
They can go right to the Best of Investing website. My bio's there. My contact information is there. My phone number is 877-270-5959. I work out of the RPM office in Mill Valley, California. Right off the 101. Come by and see us.
But you can deal with anybody in the Bay Area.
Anybody in the Bay Area, anybody in the state of California.
There you go.
Yep. Happy to help.
We're going to cut to our second commercial break. Again, the theme is mythical creatures. Here's the second trivia question. What was the mythical creature who was half man, the head this time, and half horse, the body? The first three callers with the correct answer win a free 3-day 2-night stay at the Lighthouse Resort. Their website is lighthouseforfun.com. Call 888-912-1190. That's 888-912-1190 to answer this question. What was the name of the mythical creature who was half man, the head, and half horse, the body? Again, call 888-912-1190. Make sure to include your name, your email address, state slowly, spell out your email one letter at a time. Don't touch that dial because when the Best of Investing comes back, we've got a few more very interesting comments to make.
Dang straight, they're going to be interesting.
That's
They'll be
right.
riveted to their
But I do have this Richmond thing I want to cover. Still real estate. Are there other non-real estate stuff you want to cover? That's all we know.
That's all we know. More Frank Dud.
Dud. How you doing there, Mr. Klima?
I'm doing, man.
How was Africa? I heard
Africa, I showed you the pictures, man.
Where were you in Africa?
I was fighting a snake. I sent him to Edward.
Oh, the snake one, yes.
Yeah, the snake one. Outside of Cape Town.
Okay.
Oh, yes.
Parle.
Horrible.
Throughout the 9-county Bay Area region, about 18% of all homes with a mortgage, or 205,819 homes, were underwater as of June 30th.
That's a lot.
20 or 18%.
That's a lot of flooding.
Nationwide, the negative equity rate is 23.8% of mortgage homes, said Zillow.
I hear it rains down in Africa.
When it's winter, yeah, it rained on us 2 days.
Rained every day on Kilimanjaro.
Every day?
Every day. Every morning it rains.
Where?
Kilimanjaro.
Oh.
Pretty high up there.
On the lower slopes of the mountain, it rains every day. They don't tell you that.
Oh, that's right. You're quite the.
Yeah, I've done a lot of mountaineering, so it's that one my wife and I did together was pretty fun.
That's a pretty far drive. Or
It's
like.
a long swim.
Okay. So get into the thing about Richmond, and then what else you want to cover?
I think this speaks to Mark's point. Without clear guidance from the CFPB, the natural response by lenders will be to reduce credit availability and or raise prices.
Okay, which kind of takes right off that. Okay. And away we go. Welcome back to the Best of Investing. I'm Edward Brown, your host, along with Mark Hunt of Pacific Private Money and Rob Spinoza of RPM Mortgage. When we cut to the second commercial break, we asked this trivia question. What was the name of the mythical creature who was half man, the head, and half horse, the body? Anybody?
I'm not answering any more of these half.
Horsey Man.
Horsey Man. No, that is not correct. And it wasn't, oh, well, Mr. Head. No, it was Centaur. There we go. Okay. Now, there's an article. This is actually the second time I've seen this. The City of Richmond has a radical plan to basically try to take over by eminent domain mortgages.
Right.
Okay.
All
Now-
mortgages or just underwater mortgages?
Well, underwater mortgages. Fortunately, not a thing.
Well, if my mortgage is not underwater, are you discriminating against me?
Yeah, that's right. And you're going to sue them for not taking over. But here, to me, was the kind of the big thing. So you got these people; they're underwater, and the City of Richmond is basically saying, "Hey, we want to buy those mortgages from the bank."
Right.
Now, if they were buying it at fair market value, they're obviously not paying the value of the mortgage because it's underwater.
Right.
But they're not even paying what the value of the fair market value of the property. They're
Okay.
saying we want the fair market value of the property less 20% for costs for some company called Mortgage Resolution Partners. Now, I don't know how much of the 20% of costs they get, but I'm looking at this and going, wait a minute. It's one thing to say, okay, you've got a $300,000 mortgage.
Right.
The house is worth, let's say, $200,000. If the bank foreclosed, in theory, they could sell the house for $200,000. And the City of Richmond is saying, no,
Right.
we get to buy it from you for $160,000, so you have even more of a loss.
Right.
Why? It's the cuz rule, cuz we can. And I just find
I
it.
didn't know that was a rule.
Yeah, that's right.
Round up the usual suspects.
Well, and as Mark's favorite term, the unintended consequences. Gee, what
Incredible.
happened? Well, the City of Richmond was trying to float $4 million. They were trying to float some bonds that would have been, a lot more attractive to refinance a bond issue that they already have to save $4 million. Gee, do you think a lot of people want to buy those bonds? The investors? No,
Yeah.
because gee, who knows? The City of Richmond might have eminent domain and say, you know what? I know we told those investors we're
Right.
going to pay 4%,
Right.
but no.
These things don't happen in a vacuum, and
Yeah.
I really, you talk about one of the other key components of the Dodd-Frank bill. Sorry to go back to this again and again and again because it's going to completely dominate our
We're not
industry.
done yet with Don
Yeah,
Frank on
yeah,
this
yeah,
show.
yeah.
Trust me.
But another cornerstone of this law and act is what they call disparate impact. And when you start talking about eminent domain and taking back these properties, what you have to keep in mind is that their recourse to this will be, we're just not making loans in those areas.
However, then the article, I was waiting for you to say that, the
Good.
article goes on to say that antitrust violations to ensure that Wall Street banks aren't illegally discriminating against
Right.
Richmond.
Oh,
Right.
illegally discriminating against having their money confiscated.
Yeah.
Really?
That very good point.
You can't have it both ways. I mean, our industry certainly has paid for the sins of its past. There were a lot of bad players in the industry who hopefully are all gone now, but these sorts of things have an impact of their own, and you have to hope that the people who are thinking these things through or not are aware of the fact that they don't go without unintended consequences.
Well, it gets even a little bit step.
That's why I keep talking.
But we have more, right? Okay, so this company, and I don't have anything personal against this MRP company. I have no idea who they are. Okay, but they were apparently brought in to kind of handle this situation.
Right.
I'm sure their 20% costs are kind of thrown in there, right? So the thing is, and of course, this company MRP has agreed to pay all legal expenses incurred by the city in defending legal challenges to the eminent domain seizures, right? So somehow they're going to make bank, you
Right.
gotta figure, I shouldn't use that word, make money in this kind of transaction. And so the city basically says, listen, if we're going to institute eminent domain, we need to be protected. We don't want to lose
Right.
all this money for legal
fees,
fees, right? So MRP basically says, don't worry.
Yeah, we
We'll
got this
cover-
covered.
we got this covered. But it gets
Wait, there's more.
wait, there's more. Exactly. A 2-for-1 type thing.
Just one. Nice.
Okay, so get this. So in an email exchange, they also said that MRP didn't have enough insurance to cover the city against potential
Wait a
damages.
second. Wait
Because-
for it.
right, because once the eminent domain activities hit the newspapers, no carriers would even consider
Yeah.
them. But of course now the insurance companies will probably get sued for discriminating
Right.
against
Right.
companies that are going to get sued.
And so on
and so on and so on.
Great idea, guys. Great
Very
idea.
good.
Well, this, you know what? If that proves nothing else, it's that when you go counter to the rule of law, and certainly when you go counter to common sense, there are going to be repercussions. There has to be. The free market economy works on all of these principles
Yes,
of risk.
that's
And,
absolutely true.
and if you want to undermine if you want to take one stone out, you got to wait for the others. to
Let's
fall.
go back to the Magna Carta of 1215 and start off from that all over again and start instituting.
What did Britney
rules.
Spears? I wasn't good with literature or whatever. Just talking about history.
Did you just say Britney Spears? What is she
Who's
got to
that?
do with it?
My daughter used to call her Britney Spirits.
Well,
She
there.
couldn't pronounce it.
Maybe it was Parasol. Who's got?
There's a couple
Another brain
of,
surgeon.
Robert, there's a couple of other things you wanted to cover in this.
Yeah, I'm reading these articles on a daily basis about what's going to happen with the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau. To step back a second, the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau, headed by Richard Cordray, who was appointed by President Obama, he is going to, on January 10th, begin to enforce the regulations of the Dodd-Frank bill. The overseer of all this is the Federal Reserve. But there is no congressional oversight of the CFPB. They basically have an open license to audit and go out and fine. Congress has no oversight, so it's a single entity.
And isn't the Federal Reserve a private entity?
Yes,
A lot
but
of people don't know that.
so you have all of this guidance coming down, and the end result of it is that, and the subject of this article is mortgage markets will pay the price for CFPB's contradictory policies. So you have all of this regulation going into effect. Not a lot of it is clear. Certainly none of it has been tested. And yet you have the consumer at the other end who somehow has got to funnel his way through this, and you have to hope that the lenders that are making these loans can continue to do so at price points that are competitive.
So, Mark, how does that affect you? Because, again, I keep thinking that with all of this kind of junk that's going down, I would think a company like Pacific Private Money would actually do pretty well, because these people are going to have a hard time getting loans at the bank. They're going to come and want to see you.
Well, you'd think that
One-
actually that it's not something that the private lending industry is going to be able to come in and save the day, and here's why: because we're covered by the same rules as the banks are with respect to consumer lending.
Right.
So really,
Primary
what
homes,
the
et cetera.
Consumer Financial Protection Bureau is going to be doing is protecting the poor, unknowing
Right.
consumer
You know what's
from the
gonna,
big bad predatory lenders
That's right.
and
So
the
you know
big
what's going
bad
to happen?
banks.
Everyone's going to fill out an application, and no, it's never going to be a primary residence.
Well,
Right? nobody lives there.
Right.
you take that a step further. There, of course, are when you go in and you buy your primary home, you sign a primary occupancy affidavit. It states your intent to live in the property for 12
Well,
months.
that affects banks.
Right.
How does that affect the private lending?
I think what you're really getting at, hold that question, is the fact that how are people going to begin to make ways to work around what they can't otherwise do?
Yeah, because right
And-
now the banks, I mean,
Right.
one of the things they'll do is they'll check to see if your utility bills are being sent to that address. Mark, do you do that?
No.
Okay. And with that, we're going to cut to our third and final commercial break. This is too much fun, guys. What was I hope the government's not listening to. Is the government listening to this?
Government's
Kramer?
not listening to anything.
Oh,
That's how this whole thing started.
Yeah, but we are on TV too. So government, turn your TVs off. Okay, here is our third and final trivia question. What was the mythical creature who was serpent-like with many heads? The first three callers with the correct answer win a free 3-day, 2-night stay at the Lighthouse Resort. I see a couple of blank stares here on this
Yeah.
I was waiting for the half man, half goat.
one. Goat Man? Goat Man, okay. Their website is lighthouseforfun.com. Call 888-912-1190. What's our number again? 888-912-1190 to answer this question. What was the name of the mythical creature who was serpent-like with many heads? Make sure to include your name, email address, speak slowly, spell out your email one letter at a time. Don't touch that dial because it's the best of investing. We'll be right back.
I don't know, but it played a
I
liar.
gotta go move my car, Edward.
Oh,
I
you
gotta
move
move
your
my
car, and I gotta
gotta
go
keep
keep
this
right.
running.
Okay.
Goat
I'm
man.
really
I won't
scared
touch your stuff.
they might tow me.
Okay.
I think we should try and wrap on a positive note, though. We have
That would
one.
be a good idea.
Yeah,
Do we have good news?
I'll
Yeah,
say
do you have any
something.
good news?
Yeah, sure.
Okay. gotta run and go play. I got to go pay. Remember that from the Forrest Gump? And what do you have to say? I got to pay. I got to pay. That's how he said it.
The voice is pretty good. You got a lot of these down.
Mom always said life was like a box of chocolates. You never know what you're gonna get. My name's Forrest Gump. People call me Forrest Gump. Okay. Haha, I can write that down first. Let me go figure out how many minutes we have left.
Yeah, so rough day, huh?
Yeah. It was pretty crappy when I walked in.
I've had them, man. I've walked in your shoes. It's like,
And then I just have all these time waster deals that I'm
Yeah.
working on right now, where people
I've walked in those shoes.
where they have an adamant expectation of me providing services for them for extremely reduced or even no fees. And it's just not worth getting into the individual, but it's just sometimes everything comes in waves, and it seems like the unappreciative, time wasting, can you do this for me? And I don't want to pay any points, because you're going to get servicing on it. It's like, I don't care. Servicing is my gravy. I live on points.
Right.
So don't tell me I don't want to pay any points because you're going to get servicing on this loan.
Who said that?
I've gotten that from a whole bunch of people this week. This is the week of difficulties.
You know what I've found with when I've had those spells where it seems like that's just the way it's
Where
going
no
on
one,
every day.
where people are just don't realize how insulting they are to you.
Yeah.
Because they don't value
Value
your
your
service.
time or
your
service.
time.
Yeah,
Right,
it's
exactly.
but you have to be especially careful that it doesn't show up in the tone of your your voice when you speak to your next client, because
Oh, yeah.
it's so
It's too easy.
yeah.
You said you wanted to end on an up note?
Sure, we'll just say hey look.
We got 11 minutes, 11 and a half
Oh,
minutes
okay.
to go, so
All right.
some time.
I'll elaborate.
Oh gosh, I thought it was a short one for some reason.
What I was just going to say is, we've weathered a lot of storms over the last 5 years since the downturn in the real estate economy, and the good players in the lending industry continue to find ways to, provide excellent service and great pricing.
Okay. Let's do that, and then let's get into a deal of the week with you.
Okay.
Because you got some good deal to talk about. I'm sure you do. Ready? Welcome back to the Best of Investing. I'm Edward Brown, your host, along with Mark Hunt and Robert Spinoza. When we got to the third commercial break, we asked this trivia question. What was the name of the mythical creature who was serpent-like with many heads, and it has nothing to do with the Kardashians?
I'm batting zero.
Batting
Yeah,
zero? The answer is Hydra.
Oh wow.
Yeah, that's very good. Okay. Robert, with all of these, kind of discouraging things we were talking about the whole show, you wanted to start talking about some positive.
Yeah, you
Go
have
ahead.
to, you have to be really careful when we start talking about the regulation that hinders our ability to do things. We've endured a lot of restriction and changes since the fallout of the real estate economy. All of us in here, I know Mark, you guys have as well.
Oh yeah.
And it's especially important for the consumer to know that there are a group of us out there. Certainly, it's the culture at RPM where we are really, we are intent on serving the needs of our consumers and clients, and we are happy to be of service and shepherd people through these things that they might not otherwise know about. And I think that it's good for people to be informed about them, but it is also incumbent upon the lender to educate anybody looking to buy a house or refinance a house what's going to happen in January, how to protect themselves from the
That's why I think it's more important now than ever to have
Yeah,
a mortgage broker.
Yeah, and with rates are still very good. It's very easy to see only the gloom and doom in the press. Rates are up a percentage point and all that, but still very good. You still have a lot of opportunities. Bay Area home values have appreciated wonderfully in the last 12 months, and so great opportunities still exist. And anybody who has questions about that should seek out the answers.
Yeah, it's kind of strange too, because I was thinking that oil prices were going up, but for some reason gas didn't really necessarily go up so much. It seems like it's all a game. So it's like, if you're going to play that game, get your interest rate locked in now.
Yeah. Take advantage of what's available and avail yourself of what's available. I guess the best way to put it.
Well, Robert, I sure appreciate your attempt to, at least in this final segment of the Best of Investing, kind of put a positive spin on some of the stuff that's coming down the pike. But I got to keep going back to just kind of, shaking my head here.
Yeah,
the audience can't see me shaking my head, but we've already had many new regulations enforced in lending, which have affected bank lending and as well as private lending, hard money lending. We had some regulations go into effect in 2012, and then we had another bunch go into effect in 2013. And I'm shuddering at what's coming down the pike in 2014, because it's just really, it's unfortunate. It's well intended, and the well intention is to protect the consumer, from
himself.
Well, from banks that would take advantage of you, from predatory lenders that would take advantage of you, i.e. subprime, et cetera, mortgage brokers who are only concerned with putting commissions in their pocket, who would take advantage of you and sell you a loan that really you should have no business being involved in.
Selling the dream.
But I'm not a pessimist in terms of, it's just, we're not going to be able to lend you money anymore.
Right.
Notwithstanding, I don't care how many new laws they put into place. If it turns out to be inappropriate and it actually does constrict the flow of capital to the extreme, there's going to be a backlash. There absolutely will be, and so.
There's always going to be opportunities out there.
There's going to be an opportunity. New opportunities will come up. Nature abhors a vacuum, and it just really, no matter what happens, there will always be a reaction to it.
So speaking of opportunities, I don't know if the audience, you've told them what you do for a living with the hard money loans. Give us an example of these opportunities. Like someone came to you who wanted a loan.
Well, I talk a lot about how Pacific Private Money makes loans primarily to real estate investors who are buying, fixing, and flipping real estate. But we also do some rather interesting loans right now, and it seems we're doing more of these than ever. And these are consumer home loans, purchase loans, for certain situations where the consumer either should have been able to get a bank loan but couldn't for a specific transaction, and rather than lose the opportunity to buy that home, they go to a private lender and pay higher points and higher fees.
So they start off maybe trying to go to Rob for the best loan out there, the cheapest price, and for whatever reason, they just couldn't get it done.
Yep.
Okay.
Right, and they didn't want to lose the opportunity, and so we're seeing a lot more than that. We refer to those as consumer bridge loans, and it's a bridge because it bridges the gap between the fact that they need to close that purchase transaction now or lose it, and it bridges it between the period of buying the property and the period and the ability to conventionally or obtain a conventional bank loan. And if that can happen within a 1-year period, that's the restriction. We are able to make what's known as a temporary loan to a consumer and privately fund it and charge the fees and the yield that we need to charge in order to entice private money into the lending opportunity. And so if we can do that and within 1 year the consumer has a viable exit strategy, and oftentimes it's just simply, hey, I'm still living in the house that I own.
Right.
It's on the market to sell. I know it's going to sell soon, but I really want to, I'm in contract for this other house and I got to close.
So legally you can make that loan.
Yes, absolutely.
Okay, because an enticement, I mean, if you're paying me 8% interest, that's pretty enticing for me as an investor.
Right.
Right, so we can make a loan to help that consumer purchase that target property or the uplake property, as we refer to it as, while so we help them close, and then once they sell the house they're living in now, or maybe they'll actually move into the new house, which is more oftentimes the case, and then have that other home on the market, it'll be vacant, maybe even easier to sell then, and then that loan would then pay off our loan, and then, or it would pay down a portion of it, and then the remainder would be paid off when they can eventually
Yeah, because
refi.
contingency,
That's tough.
there's
Very
no
good,
way.
very
I
good
mean,
point.
nowadays,
Yep.
you just can't buy a property and say, don't worry, Mr. Seller, I'll
When my
pay
house
it when
sells,
my house sells.
right.
Yeah. No.
There was also a situation where there was a family in contract for a home, and it was being built for them. They bought it in a new subdivision, and it was going to be a 6-month process between the time they put their money down, the deposit for the contract, and the time that they were going to close. So they were well qualified to close at the time they entered into the contract and the builder started building their home. Well, the bank got ready to put the loan together to close once the house was completed, and they pulled their credit, as they do, because it's been several months, and there was an unexpected tax lien that showed up.
Right.
It was incorrect. It was
Screeched to a
wrong.
halt.
Yeah,
Right.
but incorrect.
It was wrong.
It was
Oh,
a
okay.
wrong one.
But it was going to take
Right.
up to 90 days to remove that loan, and the builder wasn't going to give the home buyer
But
90 days to close. So rather than lose the home and a $50,000 deposit, they came to us for a short-term bridge loan.
See,
and we were able to provide
that's a
that for them.
perfect example of how that is still a bankable loan.
Yes,
But
absolutely.
because of timing,
Mhm.
that's why when a lot of people say, I don't want to invest in hard money loans because it's too risky. Really?
Right.
The bank is going to make that loan.
Right.
It's just going to take an extra few months.
It's not risk, it's understanding risk.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, everything's got risk.
Right, everything's got risk.
I say this before. When I go to XYZ Bank and they've got that little emblem that says
Right.
FDIC
Right.
insurance, really? How do I know they paid their premium?
Right.
How do I know this isn't all false? I mean, at some point you have to assess the risk and manage it and say, well, okay, my guess is Wells Fargo Bank has been around probably for 150 something years. My guess is they probably did pay their FDIC insurance
Right.
premiums. Probably my 100,000 or whatever I got, used to. It's safe. I mean, come on.
Right.
At least the thing was with the hard money loans is that it's invested in the real estate. It's
Right.
backed by the real estate. It's not backed by some,
Right.
napkin.
Idea. Yeah.
Investing today is very difficult. Everyone knows about the traditional investment options: stocks, bonds, mutual funds, CDs, annuities.
You mean all the risk-free ones?
Right,
Yeah.
all the supposed risk-free ones, and these are all the ones that your typical financial planner
Correct.
or investment advisor wants to sell you because, well,
Commission, baby.
right, they can earn commissions on it, or because they're readily tradable, they're liquid,
right.
with the exception of CDs, of course, but these
Or
are
actively managed accounts where they
Right.
charge you a
Right.
fee.
by far and away most people invest their savings, their money, their retirement savings in one of those, but more and more people today are starting to research what are called alternative investments like mortgage secured trust deeds or mortgage secured mortgage pool funds, and to earn 8% or more on their money.
And so again, in case the audience joined us fairly late, how do people get a hold of you if they want very well protected 8% returns?
So for more information on mortgage investing and how you can earn 8% or more using your savings, IRA money, or any money under your mattress, we don't care where it comes from.
You don't season the funds. How about that?
Yeah.
Nice
we don't.
concept.
So
Good.
call Pacific Private Money for more information about mortgage investing. We're here in the Bay Area at 415-883-2150. That's 415-883-2150. Or go to the Best of Investing website. That's thebestofinvesting.com. And you can read about all three of, actually there's multiple co-hosts on the
There's
Best
a
of
few of us on
Investing.
there.
Find out how to reach any one of us.
Okay. And here's our thoughts for the day. I wonder how some people can keep up with their Tumblr, Twitter, and Facebook. I can't even keep up with the Kardashians. And there are two types of human beings found on Facebook. One who gets enormous amounts of likes and comments on their posts, and the others are men. All right,
Indeed.
audience, you've heard some excellent stuff. Rob Spinoza, quickly, how do people get a hold of you?
Bestofinvesting.com, 877-270-5959, RPM Mortgage.
Yes, you have questions about mortgages?
Give me a
Call
call.
Rob. He's the man.
Yep.
Tune in next week to The Best of Investing. We're going to be giving away 9 more free vacations for answering trivia questions. Thanks for listening. On behalf of our team, I'm Edward Brown. We're wishing you the best of investing. So long.
Indeed.
Cool.
Wow.
Good thing I did those 3 toast